Welcome to Writer Gamer. My name's Kevin. Happen to be a writer and a gamer. And well, today we're just going to be kind of talking a little bit about writing in this channel. Okay, so I've stated when I kind of revamped this channel that I wanted to integrate my writing into it, but that it would not mean that I would do less video game type video, right? Everyone needs a niche on YouTube, so this is the niche of my channel. I am a writer who also plays video games, has thoughts and opinions about controversies within video games. Granted, I would also like to pan out into films to give my thoughts and opinions on some of those controversies. I've yet to create any videos within that area, but I will at some point. If you actually look at my recent live videos that I actually scheduled, I have one coming up that is basically clearly revolves around writing. So it is going to happen. I will be doing live sessions for various writing aspects. Am I going to be doing kind of like tips and tricks videos in terms of writing? More than likely, I'm going to say yes and no. Yes, in the area that, I'll have some videos, but it's not going to be a big part of the channel. I'm my own individual, my own ideas, and I kind of want to do a different aspect in terms of education for helping other aspiring writers to well write. Video coming up, because if you're unfamiliar with how writing works, there's two types. They call a planner and a pantser. I personally think the pantser is kind of a dumb definition. I think I prefer George R.R. Martin's architect and a gardener. So an architect basically plans everything out, all right? They have an outline, they know where the story's going to go, so on and such forth. In fact, the idea that an outliner would have writer's block is laughable at best because you already have everything planned out. Now, a gardener basically, in terms of writing, just kind of walks over, plants the seed, they let it grow. They don't really outline anything. I don't do that. I've never done that. That's because when I decided I wanted to be a writer, such things as YouTube wasn't around. So there wasn't a YouTuber that was like, hey, you know what you need to do? You need to outline your stories. The idea of getting my parents to buy a writing book at that time, if I even knew they existed, which I didn't, probably would have been not really going to happen because they're expensive today, so they would be expensive back in the day. So I just basically pen, paper, and started writing. Well, mostly coming up with a title first, then pen, paper, started writing. And I would usually base my story around the title of the book. I did that for years, and then it's kind of molded into sometimes I create the title, and then I kind of brainstorm an idea for the story from that title. Or sometimes I come up with an idea and then I'm working for a title that kind of fits the idea that I have. Where this is going, as you can see, I also have a couple of Let's Plays coming up. One on the 15th and one on the 22nd. We have Kingdoms of Amalur, and then, of course, The Crew 2, which is a viewer/subscriber recommended game. Will I have any other live Let's Plays? Yes, I might. I'll probably play another game both of these days. They just won't be scheduled. It'll just be like whenever I feel like it. Like I'm thinking probably playing Elden Ring on the same day as Kingdoms of Amalur. Let me give you a little sample of the kind of stuff that I write. And what I'm going to show you is a short story that I'm currently working on. I'm going to enter it into a writing contest. It's basically called A Journey to Death. Now, the title for this, actually, the idea for the title came from A Journey to the Center of the Earth. I've never read the original story. I recently did actually buy it. Right here. Journey to the Center of this. There's quite a few classic stories I have not read. So, like, I also picked up, like, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And then I got Wind in the Willows. Never read that within of itself. Point being is this title kind of gave me the idea for this title. But the overall story, excuse me, I've actually had for quite a few years. And this is a rough draft, so there's probably going to be, spelling, grammar, that kind of stuff, issues right here. It's the first draft. It's going to happen. No writer is perfect, all right? If you think Stephen King writes a perfect story every time the first time, or even R.L. Stine, you got another fucking thing coming. So, all right, A Journey to Death. The explosion of a bomb in his ears, the billow of smoke and fire in the far distance, the forceful wind licking his skin as a rush of warm air almost knocked him down. William opened his eyes a crack. The man-made wind felt warm and stung his eyes. That was a nuke? Then why was he alive? He turned his head away from the rush of the wind. His eyes thanked him. He held one of his hands up as if to block the wind. It would also help if I actually read it correctly as I wrote it, right? Yeah, that would help too. This didn't faze the wind. The man-made wind stopped. William lowered his hand and opened his eyes. What in God's name? William said as he turned back to face the dead wind. Goosebumps rushed across his skin like a tidal wave hitting the side of a cliff. He held his breath. His eyes widened at what he saw before him. Destruction. How old were you? Came a sweet voice, sounding voice, that broke William's thoughts on that day. He blinked. He coughed. That voice. Sitting across from him was a young woman. She was no more than 18, maybe 20. William couldn't say for sure. Also, he really didn't care. William grabbed a stick leaning on the log he was sitting on and began poking and prodding the fire between them. The flames reached higher. Maybe 25, he said as he placed the stick next to him. Perhaps 28, but to tell you the truth, I could care less. Not that important, the young woman said as she hugged her gut tighter. She leaned close to the heat of the flames. A nuclear bomb has gone off, William said as he crossed his arms over his chest. How old I was felt rather unimportant compared to what it took from me. Your family, she said as she raised her hands to the flames. William looked longingly up at the stars. Yeah, Kelly was my reason for living, and our unborn child was my motivation to be a better father than my own. Do you hate them for what they did? She asked as she looked solemnly at the flames swirling and dancing between them. Do you wish them dead for killing your people? She said, still gazing at the flames. Her eyes seemed full of disappointment and anticipation. William raised an eyebrow as he gazed at the young woman. Do you not mean us, Hannah? William said as he rose from his seat and walked to a pile of wood. They are your people as well. So, you're probably not going to get a lot from that, but the basic, minor spoilers I'm going to explain, is that the young woman is actually part of the group that actually set the nuclear warheads off, all right? So she's actually part of that group. So that's why she does not refer to herself as a human or a person, to which technically she is not, all right? She's an android. It's kind of like my own take on AI robots going wild. The only difference between, say, something like Terminator and what I've written here is that there's actually two factions of the AI. There were those that sided with humans, actually tried to help them, and then there were those that wanted to destroy them. So they used what the humans already had available to them, the nuclear warheads. And they set them off pretty much all across the Earth. And this is obviously years later in the future, you know, the aftermath of this. And I don't want to spoil too much about it, but let's just say that A Journey to Death is not necessarily referencing William himself as a character, because he's already aware that he's human, he's going to die, he knows this. But it's actually referencing Hannah herself. It is her journey to death. The idea is to tell some kind of compelling story about, you know, the idea of what is life, what life means to humans, what life means to Hannah, because technically she's not human, that kind of thing. It is a short story, and I'm basically working on it for like a writing competition. If I don't win, then, you know, I'll probably try to submit it to, like, I don't know, fantasy and science fiction writers, the magazine, Science Fiction and Fantasy, or Fantasy and Science Fiction. It's one of those two. I have one somewhere around here. Oh yeah, it's Fantasy and Science Fiction. So I'll try and send it to that if it doesn't, you know, if it isn't successful in the competition. Either, you know, 1 to 4th place. I'd be happy with either one. So anyway, that's that's all I have to say for this video. Possibly kind of random, but it's also kind of getting you, my current subscribers, who are mostly here because of the video game stuff, to kind of prepare you that different content is coming. And again, you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. You can stay here and just watch the video game stuff. If you come across my writing videos and you're a writer yourself, an aspiring writer, you don't have to watch any of my video game videos as well. You could just stick around for the writing stuff.